For the eyeknowledge network, I'm Craig Severson, and welcome to our introduction to podcasting. So what is a podcast? Well, it's simply an audio or a video file delivered to your computer over the internet. And that's it. Now you might be thinking, well, what's the big deal? I mean, we've been getting audio and video over the net for a long time. Well, the difference is in the way that file is delivered to your computer. And with a podcast, you can subscribe to a program like you would a magazine, but it's all free. And the content is like a radio or a television show, but it's pre-recorded and lives on your computer, so you can listen to it any time. Now, many of you might know that a lot of radio and television networks are currently offering some of their programs as podcasts. But this system is so efficient that a lot of individuals and companies are also creating podcasts to communicate their message. And this has opened up a whole new world of programs that we can all access and enjoy. So let me illustrate how this system works so you can see how simple and unthreatening it really is. And I'll use an example of an individual who decided to create an audio podcast of his own. Let's say there's Joe, whose favorite thing is flying, and he's created a weekly show about general aviation called The Joe Show. In his home studio, Joe records 2 initial episodes to get started. With these 2, he feels ready to go public and launch The Joe Show podcast. Joe signs up with, say, Acme Web Hosting and uploads his 2 episode files to Acme. And because he's creating a podcast, a special file is also created that keeps a running tab on the episodes and contains basic information about the Joe Show podcast itself. For today, let's call this the control file. Now let's say you've got an interest in flying yourself, and you've heard about the Joe Show from a friend. From your computer, you launch a free application like iTunes and ask it to subscribe to the Joe Show. Your computer sends a message to that control file to see if there are any new shows there. And since this is your first time, it indeed finds the first 2 episodes that you don't have, and it downloads them onto your computer. From there, you can listen to them anytime. Now, please notice that I didn't say you have to listen to this on an iPod. Despite its name, you don't need an iPod to enjoy a podcast. That audio file that you got from Joe is just like any other audio file on your computer, and you can listen to it anytime. Now, the good news is that a lot of podcast files are configured so you can play them on the iPod, and that's a big part of the benefit, but it's still just an option. Now that you've subscribed, your computer will automatically check the control file for the Joe Show to see if there are any new episodes. If there's nothing new, nothing happens, and all of this goes on in the background on a periodic basis, so you don't have to do anything manually. Now let's say a week passes and Joe's recorded the 3rd episode. He uploads his audio file to the Acme host as before, and the control file subsequently updates. When your computer checks the control file the next time, it notes there's a new episode that you don't have, and it immediately downloads it for you. And that's how simple a podcast works. You, as the listener, let your computer keep you up to date on what shows you've subscribed to, and Joe, as the producer, just needs to send his new files up to his host so you and anyone else in the world can get to them. You have full control over the shows you want to get, and Joe has full control over the content he wants to provide. This simple method of distribution is the key to the benefits of podcasting. Most people make podcasts also make these same programs available for listening or viewing on a website. So if for any reason you don't care to subscribe to a program, you can always watch or listen to them using your web browser. In part 2 of this video, we'll show you the 3 main types of podcasts that the eyeknowledge network is creating specifically for the eye care profession, and we'll give you examples of each. Of course, they won't be about flying, but about relevant and interesting topics to those of you in the optometric and ophthalmic professions. Thank you for joining us on the eyeknowledge network.